Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, welcome to TFYLP, episode 406. I know probably everyone is thrown off tonight because we actually started at 8:30 sharp rather than a couple minutes after, but... November 16th, I'm Lucas. I am here tonight with Paul.
Hey.
Nick.
Hello.
And Peter.
Forever Destron.
So tonight we've got some exciting news. Apparently Paul has gotten some shipments, right? Shipment. Shipment, okay.
Not get crazy now. Yeah, Walmart has delivered on one character that I do not care about. Good old wheel jerk. Whee. But he exists.
Hey, you know what though? After we did all this bad mouthing to Walmart a couple weeks ago, or was it last week out or whatever it was?
That was you guys.
Well, yeah. I was gonna say you weren't included. But yeah, you notice we didn't get shipments, right? But Paul did. I think Peter, you got one, right?
I got a shipment, yeah. I got a big shipment, not Transformers related though. I'd go so far as to say it's pretty super 7.
Ooh.
Yeah. But I don't know, I'd have to move my whole laptop to show it off.
Well, Peter, I saw earlier that you had gotten that, and I was wondering if for the show that you were just going to be sitting perched upon Snake Mountain or something. It's big enough almost.
It's huge. Yeah, that box is ridiculous. So I got Snake Mountain. He got delivered this afternoon, and it took some getting up the stairs to get it up the stairs. And I can't wait to crack it open and then pack it up and put it in storage forever. Along with my Castle Grayskull and everything else I have from the Classics line. And all my original stuff. Because, I do Motu as well. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people online on social media do the unboxing and show it off and whatnot. And it just looks so impressive, like that box and the Snake Mountain itself and all that. I really hope when Unicron comes that I have that same feeling. I'm sure that the box is going to be huge, but just the unboxing and all that type of thing. So
I'm worried that I'm going to be less excited for Unicron than I am for Snake Mountain. I've been waiting for Snake Mountain. I mean, I've been waiting for Unicron for a long, long time, but I've also been waiting for this since the Classics Grayskull came out. I've been like, we need a Snake Mountain now. And that was 2012 that the pre-orders for Castle Grayskull went up. So this has been a long time coming.
Well, it's one of those things too where they actually delivered on it. It's a really cool collector's piece and everything. And so that's something that's so satisfying after waiting for years that it actually paid off.
Mm-hmm. It just looks great, and all the things that I would have wanted in it are in it. There are so many little nods and just eggs for fans. It's fantastic. The staff really, hats off to them. Yeah,
and that's one of those things too. I feel like that we're really kind of at a golden age for collectors. I feel like that all those little fan service things, a lot of these companies are finally listening to fans and trying to put those things in, which I'm sure they probably did before, but a lot of times it's just came down to cost and things like that. And now they're like, okay, well, our target market is, the fans, it is these guys that are a little bit older and not necessarily children. And so they really do care about these things. So,
yeah. And I mean, you say it's a golden age of collectors. I would say soak it up and enjoy it while we're having it, because we're not going to get a lot of Unicrons that are that scale. We're not going to get giant Snake Mountains or another Castle Grayskull like the classics one. So this might be it. So enjoy it while you can, and like the Razor Crest and whatever else you're after. Jabba's sail barge thingy.
I don't know, you say that, but you're like, I'm sure you probably say that with the first Masterpiece Starscream. You're like, we're never going to get another Masterpiece Starscream. And then version 2 came out, and you're like, we're never going to get a second one. Like,
Beans, 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 beans. Once they changed the prototype for the first version of Starscream to the second prototype for the first version of Starscream, I was like, okay. And then they revealed the colors. I'm like, okay, they're going to do like 14 of these freaking things, and they're going to go back to that at some point and say, oh, we totally meant to release that. And they're totally going to fix the colors. They've got to do something with these wings, because these hip, wing, skirt, tail things, that's not right. And you knew it was coming. You knew that incremental thing was coming, which is, I guess, taking us to the topic for tonight, which is what again?
so the topic is whether or not Mainline can replace Masterpiece. And the reason that I came up with this, like, I've kind of personally, kind of had this whole Mainline thing going on that's been more the focus of my collection, but I've heard it in several videos. I think that watching like Ben's Collectibles and Tauntaun's review and whatever, that they've handled some of the new Studio Series 86 line and, some of the more recent Earthrise and stuff, and they're like, like, this seems like this is pretty accurate to the cartoon, like, do I need more than this? So that was kind of like where that came from. And so I thought it'd be a fun topic. I really wish I could have Rob on the show tonight, because he is vehemently opposed to this topic. And so I thought it would have been fun to have the back and forth. But unfortunately, he could not make it for tonight's show.
That presupposes that Rob is a monolith in his opinion. And I assure you that he is not. So
that's true, but he gets really upset whenever because I always try to say that in the groups or whatnot, that this is better than the Masterpiece, but yeah, he gets upset.
Well, what are you actually saying when you say that? Let's start there.
Yeah, we got to define what makes a masterpiece a masterpiece.
Well, I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. It would really kind of come down as, what type of collection you wanted for yourself. Because ultimately, this is all for you. It's not necessarily for other people. It's like, what do you like? So, I mean, that's like kind of the main thing. And then, I kind of thought, for myself, like, if I were collecting Masterpiece, but I wasn't collecting third party, I'd have a really hard time. And Paul, I don't know about you. I know you don't collect a lot of third party, but you do, collect Masterpiece and whatnot. So are you in it? Like, are you like, man, eventually we're going to get those Takara combiners? Like, I swear one day.
So I committed to the Masterpiece toy line on day one. So I'm not sitting here caring if this, that, or the other thing is going to come out. Whatever comes out is mine. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if they don't make combiners in Masterpiece, then I don't need combiners in Masterpiece, because they don't exist.
Right.
And I don't need, I don't know. I don't even really want, if I had to interject against myself, I don't even really want combiners in Masterpiece, because it just doesn't seem feasible. Like, I know that tons of third-party companies have like done their best to make it a reality, and
but they're all done with either major cheats or they're incredibly overly complicated.
I actually kind of like the ones that say, F it, we're just making this torso that goes on it. I'm like, yeah, it looks really good. Like, it's a Masterpiece quality thing. It looks like it's stepped off the screen. So,
I mean,
as far
will
as the
say
third
the
party
new
goes, I don't
MMC
care.
combiners that are coming out look pretty darn good, and they actually like integrate all of the parts into it. So, because Bruticus is done, is that right, Peter? Or are we still waiting on?
Bruticus is done.
Yeah.
Bruticus.
So, seems like they did it pretty well. But I mean, again, like, we've had multiple years of these things coming out, various combiners and whatnot. And Zeta did it first, and as far as the full Masterpiece ones, like, I know TFC and some of those other ones did it, but I don't really consider those Masterpiece.
I mean, there's a sliding scale as far as third party is concerned as to what is a masterpiece and what's not. There's things that are certainly masterpiece sized that are not masterpiece level engineering or paint or whatever. But the third party is all over the place. I think we can all acknowledge that. Yeah. End of thought.
So I guess that's the thing, Paul, is that if you're just happy with whatever the next masterpiece release is, and you don't have in your mind that's like, I have to have a masterpiece, whatever, jazz or something like that. Like something that they haven't made.
I would love a masterpiece jazz, and we'll get it one of these days. But you got to remember, I collect the masterpiece line mint and sealed box. So I don't have a shelf of dudes standing around that are, oh God, where's Bruticus? No, I have a bunch of black boxes that look amazing when they're all put together in a container of some sort, like a super shelf. Yeah. Laugh it up, Buttercup. Like, bring it on. But I don't have gaps. I don't have a missing spot on my shelf of garbledy-gook. It's like, oh, good, I wish I had brawn. That's just not everyone thinks that's the way you collect. A lot of people do. Not this guy. Not me. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem.
And I guess, again, you're collecting, I guess, whatever comes out and all that. But,
I'm collecting
why spend the money to throw it in a box, in a bin, in a tub? And
that's
a different topic.
That's a different
show. It's a different show.
Hang it up.
Okay, we'll get, because we'll go down the rabbit hole with that. So, so Catherine is asking, did Masterpiece create third party? And third party was around before Master. Well,
right.
I'm trying to think, when was the first Masterpiece? Like MPO1.
2006.
So that may have predated third party. Third party was when was the first third party, Peter?
First third party was City Commander armor.
Lies and beans.
Right?
Lies and beans. You're so wrong, dude. Okay, let me. Okay.
Here come the Transformer police.
Here we come. So, you said 2006 for MP01, and that's just wrong. You're out of here. You're out of here.
How much am I off by?
3 years. So, yeah.
First U.S. one was 2006.
No.
When they brought it over for the 20th anniversary of the movie, right?
No.
Come on. You don't have
no.
memory in your brain.
I still think that 2000 was yesterday. So.
Well, guys, I'll see you later. Okay, so no, 2003 was MP01, and the first third-party thing we have to think about it in a couple different ways. Third-party stuff, if you go back to the 90s, for Winterfest, right?
Oh, come
things
on, though.
Don't you? Oh, come on me, because that Generation 1 Action Master Fusion cannon for Megatron. That's a third-party product that was officially licensed for a day.
No, then it's not third party. It was
but then they made more. There were additional ones made.
Well,
party.
Just because they broke the rules, it was licensed for a day.
So we'll take it we'll go a little bit further, but still predating Masterpiece 01. We've got the God Jinrai upgrade kit, which was a bunch of little plastic pieces that you kind of attached to your God Jinrai when the reissue set came out in 2002. That didn't really attach some of them. The feet you had to kind of prop in front of them, but it was an add-on kit by a third party, not officially licensed, and it added value, play value, aesthetic value, whatever you're looking for, to an officially released figure, and that predates your City Commander by years. Years and years.
But I think what we consider third party today is them making their own figures, which really somewhat.
But City Commander's not its own figure. So even that logic
that's
is
true.
Out the window. The Cliff Jumper kit.
So the Fans Project, the Springer,
that.
whatever his name is, that was the first. Wasn't that the first?
Or about Defender.
Yes.
Or about Defender 2009. Come on, guys.
Okay. Anyway, so Fans Project was kind of big in the game because a lot of people at that time were collecting the classics, mainline, the stuff we're talking about today. That was kind of the focus of everyone's collection before Masterpiece really took off. And then Masterpiece took off, what was it, 2000, was it 10, 12? I'm trying to think, like, the Dotson brothers were around 2012. Okay. Like, MP10 was, what, 2010? Something, I can't remember.
Yeah. Okay, so when Grimlock came out, it caused a reshuffling of the scale because your MP01 was, like, so big, and then Starscream came out, and then Grimlock came out. And so the scale's off now. So then they started working on MP10, and then the Dotsons were coming out. Rodimus came out. So that, like, the whole when the scale shifted down, you know, we're not talking about MP05 because he was a big gnarly mess that was designed in 5 minutes, and that's why. You know, anyway,
that sucks.
I don't want to say it. I really,
it does
really
suck. They all shatter. They all suck. MP05 is terrible.
Mine still doesn't have the cosmic rust.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in Florida.
Yeah, it must be the salt water.
Yeah, let's talk about salt water. I've had a bad experience. Yeah. So when they reshuffled the scale, when Grimlock came out, that basically hit the reset button on what the scale was supposed to be, and then they started, you know, then the Dotsons came. Well, the Dotsons didn't all come out at once, but Sideswipe came out, Prowl came out, and then down we go.
Right, and so, like, I would say right around that time when Masterpiece was kind of ramping up and third party switched over to Masterpiece, like, Fans Project was still making things. I'm trying to think of, I can't remember if Make Toys and MMC were making, you know, some of their stuff that was kind of related to mainline stuff or offshoots of that and whatnot. But, and so a lot of people were selling, or I'm sorry, a lot of people were focused on mainline at that time from, like, when Classics came out, and then there was a huge, like, a ton of people dumped it, and like around 2012 or so, and got full into Masterpiece. And so you see, like, a lot of people that from that time on that were like, I'm just Masterpiece collector, and, you know, they got their DTOFs and put them full of Transformers and whatnot behind them, with third party as well. And so that's, I think a lot of people, like, that's the focus of their collection today. So, like, that's kind of like when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about those people where, you know, they kind of have a full set of bots behind them that were, you know, all Masterpiece scaled and quality, and they would have a mix of official and third party.
Have you ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
No.
You should. It goes into a lot of detail on the qualities of quality, and it's a really, really great read. I agree. As a short version. Now I'm going to talk a lot to expand on that short thing. So when I saw a lot of people do the same thing, the classic line or Generations line or Universe line or whatever line it was that was coming out, that was the spiritual successor to Classics. People were getting tired of it, and so they moved in droves. Once the Dotsons and the actual cartoon accurate dudes started coming out from Takara, and the third party people were trying to move into the Masterpiece scale with varying degrees of success. I would say that Fans Toys was the first one that really nailed it with their Quake Wave figure. Right. That one just, I was like, okay, these third party things are that's okay. What the hell is that? I want that. Yeah. So I saw a lot of people. That was 2013. A lot of people just immediately like screwed it right over there and hung up all that Classics jibber jabber with the nonsense and the redecos and whatever. But yeah. Next.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of been the thing, but then now, like, so we've all been in this scene. It's been since around 2012 to now, and so if you've been collecting since then and getting it, at this point you probably have a pretty full collection, and you have a lot of characters, you know, like a lot of boxes checked for those characters and whatnot. For newer collectors, though, like if you're trying to go back and you're like, okay, well, I need some Insecticons, or I need, I'm trying to think of like whatever, like I need various characters. It can be actually hard to find those characters now, and a lot of, especially Fans Toys figures that are going for an absolute premium. The Dinobots are another good example. That if you didn't get on that train, like, I mean, those things are just going for crazy money now too. And so, you know, now, like if you're getting in now, and especially with Takara kind of coming out with a new Optimus Prime again, like the cost of entry for getting into Masterpiece these days is higher than it was back then. And so that's kind of the question you have to ask yourself as well, just depending on, you know, what level you're at with your collecting and what your budget is and whatnot.
It's only expensive to get into Masterpiece right now if you're not like me and Paul, if you're doing the third-party Masterpiece stuff. Because if you're like me and Paul and you're just doing the official things, there are plenty of them out there that are still plenty cheap because the bootlegs have tanked the market on most of the Autobot cars. You can pick up most of the Autobot cars for a reasonable price. You just have to be careful what you're buying. You don't want to wind up with a bootleg. And I'm perfectly happy to wait for whatever Takara brings us in their Masterpiece line. I don't feel a need to complete it with third-party Insecticons that are $1 million or Dinobots that are, you know, who can decide on who has the better one and which variation and what. Screw it. I'll wait for whatever Hasbro Takara does eventually, and I'll just wait. Or not, and this is where I come in. I'm hoping that this is the death of Masterpiece and it goes away forever, and I can just focus on other things now. Bye-bye.
I heard what you said. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want that to happen?
Because I want.
Why you gotta 2020 me here?
Because it's not fun
you don't
anymore.
have to buy them.
Masterpiece has stopped being fun for me, and I think this goes back to our original point. The generation stuff is more fun than it's been in a long time, and I would much rather buy and enjoy those. Masterpiece at, you know, $300 to $400 a throw, that's not fun anymore. That's work.
But
I'm
I
fucking
mean,
up with it. The sooner it's gone and dead, the happier I will be.
I would argue somewhat that, you know, like not even considering pricing, that Masterpiece, and I guess it depends on what you like. If you like smooth transformations, then, you know, some of the older stuff is a lot better than some of the newer stuff. Like,
Blue
if you like complicated...
and Sideswipe were perfect, and they were $60 each, and I didn't have to, like, freak out, am I going to break this thing like Hound?
Right.
Well, Hound's a special case in that everyone
Is
has
he?
a
How
Hound.
many of them all have that problem now?
All of them. They just disintegrate sitting on shelves. They're magic. It's that magical disappearing Hound. And then they'll reissue them in 3 years and have marginally better plastic, and then everyone will buy it again. Which brings me to, on the third-party side of things, people getting in and out. People, like, bouncing around and deciding, like Nick said, about picking which version of the Insecticons or the Dinobots or the whoever's are the best with the best. So I'm going to use Mirage as my example. DX9 Invisible. We have not gotten an official Mirage from Masterpiece yet. And Mirage is one of, I mean, I say everyone's my favorite character because it's true, but Mirage, I had him as a kid, and he was, you know, I really liked that he was, you know, this guy that wasn't quite sold on everything, and he was just kind of over there talking. Anyway, so DX9 Invisible came out, and I bought him. And I loved him. And he wasn't perfect, and I bought him, and it was great, you know. And then here comes Sphinx. Oh, so I bought MMC's or Ocular Max's Sphinx, and then they came out with the Sphinx recolor, and I sold off the DX9. But everyone sold off the DX9 when Sphinx came out. And then the next Sphinx came out at a loss. Then the next Sphinx came out, and everyone sold off the last Sphinx because it wasn't exactly the right color, and this new color is a little bit better. And then two Invisible Sphinx variations came out for TF Cons, one for Toronto and one for Chicago, and people bought those. And then there was the selling off of some of the, I need an half invisible Sphinx. And then the Gen 2 Sphinx came out, which is the only one I have on display anymore.
Yeah.
which is fantastic. It's that figure doesn't go away. I will sell off every other version of Sphinx that I have before that one goes away.
If Masterpiece goes on long enough for them to give me an official version of that, that's the only way I would ever sell that toy. Period. End of story.
Seriously. So then Transformation Element or whoever, TE came out with a really nice cartoon accurate Mirage like 3 months ago or whatever. And now you see listings of people who are, and in the middle of all this, DX9 Invisible got a reissue. Who was asking for that shit?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So
That had to have just
now,
been like someone found a case of it in
like
the
a
back
stock.
of a warehouse or something. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, right.
That's how it felt, because that figure is so out of date and so just out of like look spec in terms of where we have come for third-party Masterpiece style toys. Transform Element is just, I think that one's beautiful. I haven't picked it up yet. I'm going to. Rob was telling me about his, I believe. And so you've got like these iterations, a bunch, people got the gig. Ooh, don't break stuff. People were getting the Gigapower Dinobots. People were getting the Fans Project Lost Exo Realm Dinobots. People were getting the Fans Project Dinobots. People were getting all these different Dinobots. Toy World had a set of Dinobots that were big and chromy and masterpiece, but they're not. But you have like all these people that have like 14 different sets of the same, the Dinobot Wars have begun, the Bruticus Wars have begun, the Defensor Wars have begun. We've got the Menasor Wars and the Predaking Wars and the Abominus Wars, and TFC is just making random shit all over the place and you can't keep up, even though they've slowed way down. But you have all these iterations of all the same thing, and I think a lot of it and they're all at Masterpiece prices. When these things are coming out new, they're $100 a piece, $150 a piece, the old Masterpiece price standard. And if you know you're going to buy these guys and they don't look quite right, and in a year you're going to sell all these guys off, Lucas, you know what it's like to sell off hundreds of figures. And it's not an indictment.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's not an indictment. It's just you're going to buy these figures at $100 and $150 a piece, and you know that in a year you're going to sell them at $80 or $60 or $50 or $30. So there's a lot of fatigue that comes with, I'm going to blow all this money, I'm going to sell these toys, I'm going to got to get the next one because it's incrementally better. And if I'm going to have that sort of fatigue, I do it because I have brain damage. But if I'm going to have that sort of fatigue where I'm selling things and buying things and selling things and buying things for the same set of 15 figures over and over again, I might as well do it at the $20 and $30 price point than the $150 to $450 price point.
See, the trouble that I had, that I've always had problem with Masterpieces, I think that, Paul and Nick, you guys hit a good point that if you were I shut my brain off to third party and I don't let that in and I just, go with those releases, I feel like I'd probably be happy with it. But the problem that I have is I would have a little earworm or whatever and say, well, man, I really want to jazz those so that the Make Toys downbeat. I'm just going to get that jazz. And I was well, if I get the jazz, Fans Toys make some fantastic figures. And man, that Toy World Devastator, that looks really cool too. And so I was get that. And then I was well, and you just keep going and going and going. That's my issue. And Peter, I'm sure that you probably agree with me that you kind of have the same thing, that somehow that's how my brain works. It's if I open the door to it in the back of my brain, it's going to go in. And so I've had this, I've bought and sold a Masterpiece collection twice now because of that. And so that's what I was I have to stop. I can't do it anymore.
And you aren't alone, I think is one of the big things, is that you aren't alone in that fatigue. You aren't alone in that just oh God, when am I going to get a real Masterpiece Huffer or a real Masterpiece, I don't know, Brawn? So we have the Fans Toys one just came out a few months ago and it's great, but it's not official. The Bad Cube one was great for 2014, but everyone's thrown theirs in the garbage can. The Huffer by Cubex, remember that thing? Cubex Huff before Cubex became Bad Cube? That's been reissued and redone a bunch of times. There's another company that did that 3-pack of the Warpath, the Brawn, and the... Help me out here. It was 3 Mighty Soldiers.
Gosh.
It was supposed to be Masterpiece, but it was hot garbage, and those are all on clearance. So, again, it's without an official avenue, you're gonna have those gaps. Paul talks about with his masterpiece collection, since he's buying it sequentially and he buys the variants, and it's MP10 Wrangle Dangle and it's MP10 Giraffe Face or whatever. It's MP10 Atmos Flooby Dooby, whatever. You get it, you buy it, you throw it in a tote because it's a pretty black box, and I just can't wait to stare at it on my giant display of black boxes. It's not for everyone. No. I throw it in a tote and pretend that it never existed, and that my wallet forgives me. Well, for me, what I like to see is my 1986 masterpiece guys right there. I like to see my 1987 style masterpiece guys right there, and my 86 Decepticons and my Combiner Decepticons, and they're all just like, hey guys, we're all hanging out. And when I don't have a character that fits a hole perfectly, my brain flips out and it starts screaming at me. There's no huffer behind me because there's no huffer in my classics section. And I know Kingdom has a huffer coming. We don't have to talk about that, but I'm talking about it. So I guess I'm just defeating myself. But without a good huffer.
What was wrong with the last huffer?
When was there a last decent huffer?
There was just one in, what was it? Was it Generations 2014 or something?
You mean that Optimus redeco?
Yeah. No, I mean that Optimus pre-deco. It wasn't an Optimus for me. It was a Huffer for me. The Optimus stayed sealed. I never looked at him.
The Bad Cube one wasn't bad. Like the new, not the CubeX one, but the one that they did later.
Right, the one they redid the knees and they redid the arms and they fixed the paint.
Well, yeah, what about your 2007 BotCon Huffer? What was wrong with him?
Wasn't that the armor hide mold?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Peter's like, I'm out of this. But yeah, so I mean, I'm the same way, and the thing is like there's certain masterpiece figures or third-party figures that you get them and you're like, oh my god, this is so amazing, this is perfect, like this is what I wanted. But then there's so many that you're like, oh, I really wanted a really nice representation of this, and either the plastic isn't good or the transformation is, just absolutely horrible that you have to like bend plastic in order to transform it and whatever it may be. And so it's just not a lot of fun. And then the other thing too is like with the masterpiece, ultimately, like I kind of want this to share with my kids and whatnot, right? Well, like when I had my masterpiece display, I had it all behind locked glass, because I don't want my kids messing with the figure, with a $200 figure and breaking it, right? And so I had plenty of toys to, let them play with, and I had plenty of like, here, don't play with that Galvatron, play with this Titan's Return Galvatron, here you go, kind of thing. But that's the other thing too for me is it's a lot more fun to just be able to set some of this mainline and share that with your kids. So and obviously that's not necessarily everybody's like what their intention is, what they're collecting. But
here's the litmus test for me. As a guy with no shelf space right now due to my situation, the minute I have shelves again, what's going on the shelf? It's not the masterpiece. The masterpiece is going to stay in their boxes. It'll be the chug stuff. I will create an ultimate chug shelf, and that'll be the first chug shelf that goes out.
Death to chug. The term
I hate that.
Doesn't exist. It's gross. It's a gross word.
Come on. It's not moist.
No more chug.
Chug made more sense when chug stood for something that was concurrent, but now it's
still generation.
Generations for like 10 years.
It's like chug with like 10 G's on the end.
But the thing that really annoyed me as well is that the fact that these are Transformers, they're supposed to transform, right? But like, how many of these masterpiece figures, like I literally would look at my shelf and I would be like, I don't want to transform any of it. I just want it to sit there. And then it's like, well, if it's just going to sit there and I'm going to just look at it, like, why don't I just buy some statues? And like, that's what I did. So like my upper display, I've got statues because like that, and I actually enjoy it a lot more because I don't have to worry about transforming it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing it is for me, but there you go. Or you could be like, I don't want to transform it, and so I'll just buy the Red Series.
Or you could collect any other toy line on Earth that doesn't transform, and everyone's happy.
Just go buy some Gundam and get off the show.
But I think like the long-winded the thing is though is that like the new figures that we're getting, it has the level of articulation that you would be looking for in Masterpiece. It has the look. Like it finally is getting to the point where it looks show accurate. So it may not necessarily be the same level of quality as some of the Masterpiece figures, but it like how close is it? Like what would you is it 75%?
Well, this stuff is 100,000% show accurate because they made the toys first and made the show after the toys, which causes a different problem that we're dealing with from the show perspective. So, I don't know. The merging never really bothered me. It's nice when something that is so hard to make a reality gets made. Like MP44 looks holy crap like the Optimus Prime in the cartoon in certain frames. But you pay for it.
You pay for it, and 4-year-old to 8-year-old me did not give a crap that Wheeljack was built like a gorilla and had no face, or that the Seekers looked all goofy, or that Soundwave was 9 feet tall and Shockwave was, 10 feet tall. This Shockwave toy was like this tall, and Megatron was like, "Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?" And it's just I didn't care as a kid about cartoon accuracy. I wanted to play with those damn toys.
I really did care. Like it really did bother me as a 4 or 5-year-old. I was like, this Optimus Prime doesn't have this hanging thing off his arm. What is this? And his legs look silly, and his head is squashed. Like, what's up with this? And then I saw some of those Ladybird books or whatever that had like the toys drawn.
Yeah.
And like I always kind of was bothered by the box art on the back. Although, I love the box art, but like I was like, that doesn't look like the cartoon. Like that the cartoon was imprinted on me very hard. I think I must have seen the cartoon before I ever saw the toys, and the toys came afterwards, But like I can't really remember. So I guess I'm just saying, like, counterpoint to
right
what you're saying,
right.
Peter. Just everyone experienced it a little differently, and
right. And it imprinted, like you said, the imprint is important. What imprinted on you and stuck is what's stuck.
And the visual thing. I've been a visual artist over the years, so like that is probably why that's how my brain's wired. So that's what I really attach to.
And I'm a puzzle guy, so I like this is a cool car, this is a cool robot, and what do you know? I'm an engineer of sorts, or whatever I do.
So
and then there's Nick.
I like putting all the little parts together with the robot and making sure it's complete, and lining them all up in displays. And oh look, I'm selling toys for a living.
It works.
Well, Paul, let me ask you, like, if you had to only focus on, one line, like if for whatever reason that, like for whatever circumstances, like your wife says, hey, you know what, you need to cut back, like you can only collect one Transformers line, which one would it be? Would it be Masterpiece or would it be Mainline?
Well, that's if it's Mainline, then I guess I get Studio Series 2, huh? Because they're all generations.
There you go.
It is, your question is framed in a weird way, but like it's just, I guess I would go with Masterpiece because I think it's the best, and but that isn't I really collect the character thing, which transcends lines, but so it'd be more like you can choose one character, Paul, and I'm like, well, I know who that is, and that would be it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in with the masterpiece of. I think it's always getting better. Yeah, there's like a setback here and there, but like what toy line doesn't have that? And I think it's the pinnacle. I mean, I don't know what they would make beyond masterpiece if they ever tried. Like, what would you call it?
Master Force piece.
Super platinum gold edition. You know, I don't know. I hope they don't do that.
Actual cars that really do transform.
And you go on adventures.
I don't want to give anyone.
But yeah, I know for me at least, like, you know, I'm not big into, you know, the movie or Beast Wars and things like that. So I know, like, it's somewhat frustrating if you're only collecting Takara stuff that you get like a G1 masterpiece like once every 6 months to a year kind of thing, and then you get like the new RC. Like, for me, like, I mean, it's okay, you know. I don't know. Like, I'm not necessarily that impressed by that, and like a few of the ones, like the new the Masterpiece Optimus in P44, like that thing looked fantastic, looked amazing. Like, and I've wanted to get it, but you know, some of the other ones that they've done, like I wasn't impressed by the Bumblebee. Like, the Hound looked really cool, like, even though, you know, it had issues with brickage and whatnot, but...
That's the thing about that Hound. It is a great toy. It's a shame you can't actually mess with it. The transformation was fun. Like, it's posable, it looks right, the deco's great, but, you know, God forbid the temperature changes 5 degrees in my room and it picks up another crack.
Well, maybe they'll make a plus version and it will solve, you know, some of those issues.
But
Does it solve the issue? Because I still have to own them both.
Yeah, my non-plus version still is crumble ready.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. Like, I feel like if I was... What's it?
It's the Sherman Dam Fight Hound after Rumble beats the snot out of him. That's what that toy is. He just falls... Yeah. Oh, we just solved a mystery right here on the show. That's great.
Mystery!
But yeah, I do think that, you know, for those of us, like I know Jay Zachary said that he traded in Masterpiece for Mainline and has zero regrets. I think that for the people that did make that move, like, you're probably not having a lot of regrets right now because there's so much product coming out and, like, they're doing a fantastic job with it. I mean, the new figures that they have coming out, just the level of articulation and, you know, the engineering for Mainline, I mean, I think is great. Like, there's a few ones that are stinkers again, like, you know, the RC and the Mainline, like, is not the greatest transformation in the world. And a few of those other ones where, you know, for those people that don't like parts formers, like, you know, they kind of leaned into that one with the shields on everything. But
we've had parts forming since day one, and I know the engineering has stepped up, but we've had it's a part of the line. It's a legacy thing. I can say for those who have abandoned Masterpiece for classics, Hanky Universe Generations, whatever you want to call it.
Drake just pointed at you.
Okay. I'm never gonna see a Masterpiece Scrounge that turns into a little wheel. I'm never gonna see a Masterpiece Kaon with like crackly electricity. I'm never gonna see a Masterpiece Scamper or Metal Hawk or Springer probably from an official source. So yeah, if you have the character itch, like I have to have all the characters, and you want all of your
right
people filled out, then yeah, classics is the way to go. But if you want a certain level of quality, then your mileage will vary on Masterpiece.
I mean, I'm trying to think why Rob reacted the way he did, which is not a publicly visible thing, but you know, I guess he's just he seemed like almost offended that you would compare the two, like, oh, you can just do one or the other, like, and they're somewhat equivalent, but like you wouldn't. So yeah, what you're trying to say, Lucas, is that These toys are incredible now compared to stuff that's come in the past. I would agree with that. But you wouldn't get here without 15 years of Masterpiece toys that came before it. Because they've already they've now solved all these problems that they can apply easily without a bunch of like, will this work? I don't know. Should we try it? Let's use a new CAD model. They already know how to get the ankle tilt in there with the size screw they're doing. All the real nitty-gritty logistics crap to make this stuff happen. Yeah,
that bug bite figure is more fun than MP05.
But the funny thing is that bug bite figure. So there's been a couple of third-party cliff jumpers and whatnot, right? And some of the engineering, like the engineering from Bumblebee, is like you can tell that there's some of that in that toy right there. And again, like you said, some of those third-party figures. And you see that with a lot of the figures nowadays. Like, I feel like that Hasbro or Takara or whatnot has taken, like you said, all the cues. Yeah, exactly. What was that again? What Ace Toys?
This was XTB.
Or
Toro.
XTB, yeah.
So it looks like they bought this figure, had it on their desk, fiddled with it for a week, and said, "How can we make this $20?" And then they did. And then they did. And the backpack comes off, but look at the backpack on this thing. Ew. It's obscene. It doesn't get any smaller than that. And my kid has his cliff jumper somewhere. It's packed away, but he's sleeping. But yeah, it's the same size. It's pretty much the same level of engineering. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, I feel like that Hasbro is almost knocking off, or Takara, whoever's designing the new toys, is almost knocking off the Masterpiece and third-party figures and simplifying the transformations, which makes it great because...
Only simplifying it this much. It's really not that far off. I think, if we're talking price-wise, like this figure... it was $80 when it came out, but it was $80 because they only did a run of 1,000, whatever. Hasbro's doing 10,000 cliff jumpers or more, and so they can afford to do it at $20 a pop. It's the same damn toy, not literally for the people that are gonna pick that apart, but
right.
But yeah.
But the thing is like a lot of those third-party companies or Takara. Like, they're putting an extra 5% or 10% or whatever it is into the transformation, whatever extra percentage, but then that's the part that's not really fun. Like, that's the part that sucks. Like, that's not fun to transform. And so that's the thing is like all these mainline figures, like you can just sit there and they're fiddle despots and whatnot that you can play with. But, and again, I'm sure Rob would probably disagree with us. He probably loves transforming MP44 every night. But, like, for a lot of people, it's just, it's one of those things, like, I don't know. Like, and I do get it, like MP36 Megatron, right, is, like, an incredibly satisfying figure to transform, even though it takes like 45 minutes. So it's like, well, I have to clear my schedule for the afternoon here in order to do it. But it's a fun transformation, though, even though it's incredibly complex. But
it's worth it. I have had so much fun transforming like Fans Toys Road King the last couple of weeks. I've been playing with him nearly nonstop. He's complex. He's fun. I can't wait to get the other Stunicons so I can play more. I like transforming Transformers. It's not a, and yeah, some of them are less fun than others. I've purchased every version of Ollie by X Transbots that's come out as they came out. And if you want to talk about something that's not fun to transform, that has bendy plastic that falls apart in your hand, that has garbage paint and garbage screws, garbage plastic, just yeah. There are levels of fun, and then there are levels of fun, and I guess your mileage is going to vary on what you feel is worth your time or your dollar or your collecting attention.
But I think the other thing too is like you brought up Road King, so that's the Motormaster, right?
Yeah.
So that figure is like somewhat incredible with like all the panels, like the way that it flips in to where you have this like huge truck that transforms into a dude. And like the way they did that transformation and were able to collapse the backpack and things like that. And so that's some of the engineering that you do miss out on. Like just being able to experience that, because that's never going like that next level is not going to come to, mainline. And even like the new masterpiece, like the new MP44, like that level of transformation and whatnot, what they do in that is more than likely not going to, like, who knows? You never know, because I mean they've had some mainline figures, especially with the movie, that were pretty complex. But
then now we're getting into, I guess, like the philosophy section of what is fun and what is not fun, because was it 2010 that the Hasbro rep was up there, like angrily wagging around the Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime leader class instruction sheet, and he's like, "This is not fun, and no kid wants to play with this." And rah, rah, rah. I love that figure. I love that figure. I love transforming that figure. I love just fiddling with it.
It's absolutely fine in robot mode.
No.
Good luck getting the hood together to put it in the truck.
Easy. You just
absolutely not.
You just do it, and it's fun, and it's satisfying, and it's enjoyable.
Break it every goddamn time.
I remember being so incensed at that dude at BotCon. He's like, we're in Orlando or whatever, and he's like, "This is not fun, and no kid wants to," and he's like throwing the instructions, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? It's fun. He's wrong.
But I feel like once again Hasbro somehow showing up to BotCon and like giving the wrong message. Like obviously you like for kids and stuff like that is ridiculous. Like if you're trying to sell that figure to a kid, like he's never going to transform it. And you're going to have some pissed off parents. Like if they don't transform toys regularly, like they're probably going to be upset about it too. So that's completely different than like the hardcore collectors that enjoy transforming stuff. That like
which is why
challenge.
For the movies they had those different levels of, you have big chunky Optimus Prime that does nothing and just like goes beep bop boodly doop, and then you've got the $50 leader class, and you've got things in between that are not too complicated but also not super simple, and for little hands and things like that. Like we still have Ultimate Bumblebee kicking around from 2009 or so with the lights and the sounds. The really big one. And it's not hard or anything. We laugh at it now, but it was for him. It was really a big deal when he got it, but it was still fun, and he still worked at it. I don't know. And end of thought. I don't know. I forgot where we were going with that. I like robots.
We're all just eagerly listening to you, Peter.
As I go stream of consciousness.
Yeah, you've been on fire tonight.
Yeah.
For once, I'm not the crazy ranty guy. It's great.
Well, I mean, just like think about how.
Hold on. What can I figure out to trigger Nick so that he goes on a rant?
What's the topic again? Just define it one more time. We're just seeing like we're interchanging.
So
you're basically saying masterpiece or mainline?
Could mainline
as if they can't coexist?
Well, I think for a lot of collectors they don't, though. I mean, I think that for some they do, but I think that we all have lines that we have to draw with our collecting. Like, yes, there's probably a handful of people that get everything. But again, Nick, like you don't collect third party, right?
Right. I collect everything official.
So, like, I probably have the one guy that collects everything on the show tonight, but most people draw that line somewhere. So I think that there's some people that draw the line that say, okay, I can either do masterpiece or I can do mainline, or I can do in that masterpiece might include third party or might not. And so I think that, again, we all have limited budgets because we may not only collect Transformers. Maybe we're also into Star Wars or Marvel Legends or,
Masters of the Universe.
Or Masters of the Universe or G.I. Joe or whatever. And so, like, you have there's always that fight with shelf space and whatnot and what you're going to do. And so I think that's one thing that I do think is a plus for Masterpiece, because there's less of it in general. Like, you don't have to worry about it being complete and having a huge, shelves upon shelves of stuff.
What?
Wow, usually we're talking over each other. Oh my god, is that the box? For our audio listeners, Peter has acquired the Snake Mountain box.
It's a box. It's quite the box. I can't fit on the screen with the box.
You can't. It's a very pretty cardboard angle. Fragile.
Must be imported.
Yeah, so limited budgets, limited space, limited things. If you're gonna, if I mean, all of us have various limitations. I don't know. If you're gonna be limited, allow yourself to be limited, which we all kind of have to be in some ways here and there. I would say the classic stuff is the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's accessible. Like you can walk into the store and you can find it.
What masterpiece is available in store shelves right now? Ratchet from the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, if you go to Ross,
and maybe Megatron, maybe Starscream, that have been ripped apart by the grandmas at Ross.
It ain't the grandmas at Ross that tear it apart.
Well, I mean, if you again,
it's the unsupervised gremlins.
Again, accessibility matters. Like, first off, Ross is unpredictable at best.
Mm-hmm.
And if every masterpiece was at Ross prices, everyone would have masterpiece. But they don't have so many. And, well, Hasbro had too many because they couldn't sell them. And they gave them to Ross. And, if you know they're going to show up in your area the day that they do and you're there, you can grab them. But the average person just being like on a whim at Ross, like, oh, there's Megatron. Very rare. Not going to happen.
I mean, I do think, again, like, if you're limiting it to just Masterpiece, Takara Masterpiece, it's pretty accessible in general because you can go to an online retailer like Big Bad Toy Store and whatnot, and Takara does reissue their figures quite a bit. Like, I know that we talked about, knockoffs driving down the price, but the other thing is like, Takara's reissued, like, almost pretty much every figure.
At least once.
I think Grapple might be one of the few ones that they haven't, but for the most part, most of the time they're reissuing the figures. And so you can just go and click on, if you wanted to fill your cart up with a bunch of Masterpiece figures at Big Bad Toy Store, you could do it. And, you could get $1,000 shipment, next week or whatever.
Okay, that's not accessible. $1,000 shipment on a whim. I mean, come on. You can buy stuff online, yeah, but like you can't. You have to be directed, or you have to be targeting that stuff. You got to know what you want. You're not just you don't have a. There's no spontaneity there. I guess that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Right, but if you're collecting the mainline stuff nowadays, love this T-shirt, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But, I mean, I would argue that it would be a frustrating endeavor to collect mainline if you're not super hardcore into it, because there's so many exclusives nowadays, and a lot of those figures are just kind of gone. Like, if you wanted to check,
that's a relatively new phenomenon. That is the last year or so.
Yes.
It used to be that there was the occasional thing that would sell out and be $1 million. But it often wasn't,
right.
Skywarp and Thundercracker.
I mean,
Ironhide and Prowl, or Dirge, right. and Ramjet.
That's a new development.
I mean, are you saying like to collect the toy line? When you say you mean complete the toy line? Because like a lot of people collect this stuff and don't get it all.
Right, but if you're getting into Transformers, my dad watched Transformers when he was a kid. Speaking like I'm the dad or whatever. And I want a Dirge, and I want a Thrust, and I want a Ramjet, and I want Runamuck and Runabout, and Ironhide and Prowl, and Smokescreen and whoever. Oh, those Quintesson guys are cool. My dad says they didn't make Quintessons when he was a kid, but they make Quintessons now. The Quintessons are at retail, and the Alicons are at retail. Not everyone has a Collecticon Toys warehouse in their basement where they can just pick and choose from, you know? Some of us have to go out in the wild to Walmart and deal with it.
I bet I go to Walmart more than all three of you guys combined.
I
But
bet
I
you
have
do.
seen all those toys on the shelf. Multiple
Because you're at
times.
Walmart all the time. But if you're a 14-year-old kid in a pandemic, you're kind of stuck.
Well, not all of
that's
us
true.
do a lap of 15 Walmarts, so it might not be at all the Walmarts.
Gone are those days, let me tell you. That was exactly what I would
Some
do
Target.
back in,
2002.
1998, 1999, 2000. Yeah. We would just drive the loop at Jersey, and we'd go from, Brick all the way up to Linden Elizabeth and back down again.
But I do think, again, that speaks to the popularity these days. I don't know. Like, maybe it's not the popularity, but it seems like there's a lot of people that are, collecting this stuff and causing it to sell out and whatnot. And so then, again, like, if you're that 14-year-old kid that, wanted this, that, or whatever, you just decided for Christmas that you wanted all this stuff, you can't necessarily get it, but... it's probably easier to get. It's easier to get a Masterpiece Prowl probably than it is to get the new Amazon Prowl because he sold out.
It's just what you're willing to pay. You can get it. You're just going to pay for it. But 10 years ago, kids weren't going crazy over Tomahawk from whatever movie line he was from, or Terra Dive with the translucent cockpit, or whoever. They wanted, Ratchet and Starscream and I don't know who was in the movies. Guy, Sideswipe. I don't know. Now the Hasbro is making the character
Stabby McMurder face, isn't that
exactly.
what they all are?
They're all like that. It's just like, what the beans is this? Now they're making those characters in like damn near perfect. I won't say they're masterpiece level, but they're damn near perfect for classic level.
Right.
And they're not. You can't find them easily without either spending a bunch, hanging out at Walmart all day, or having some other line to get them. All day long. All day with Paul at Walmart.
Yeah.
Going to the
I mean, I
bathroom.
do think in general, a lot of times Hasbro does their best to try to get all of those characters out there in one way or another. It may be something where it might be a year later or something like that it comes on a, they put it in Netflix or they put it in something else and whatnot. But for the most part, at least most of those main characters, and I know that we've also complained about the fact that, they did those same characters in Siege and whatnot. So, I mean, if you're really jonesing for an Ironhide and Prowl, you could always get it in Siege if you had to. And the articulation, the look may not be necessarily what you want, but it's close enough.
I might say the Siege Ironhide is one of the harder figures to get. In actuality.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Really?
That second
kind of-
wave. The second wave didn't get like super widely distributed like the other ones.
Well, there you go, somehow.
Which means they'll show up in Ross in another 6 months.
Right. Yeah, no, I know like that Soundwave was kind of the same way where some people never saw the Soundwave at retail, and then I know like however much longer the Siege Soundwave has shown up at Ross. So, distribution is always a tricky thing. So,
But would you classify the Siege Soundwave or the Siege Ironhide as being replacements for Masterpiece Ironhide or Masterpiece Soundwave?
I mean, me? No, absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. They're different aesthetics. They're different sizes. It kind of has a lot to do with what you put around said item.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean,
But
there's also people that only, they just want like Anna, for instance. She likes a single representation of whatever character it is, unless, so there are some exceptions. So it's for me, my brain freaks out if I have like Masterpiece Ultra Magnus standing next to, I don't know, Combiner Wars Scrounge next to third party X Transbots Toro or something. It'll just like break. One, because those
Right.
characters don't go together, but two, because the aesthetic is all goofed up. I don't know. So yeah, it's all personal preference. It all comes down to taste and what you were willing to spend.
But I would say though, the new Earthrise Ironhide and Earthrise Soundwave, I do think could be like stand-ins for Masterpiece. Like if again that was the scale you're collecting and whatnot, like both of those are like close enough to the cartoon aesthetic that I think for me, like again, there's niggles and stuff that you would complain about both, that I think the Masterpiece does a better job of it. But I mean, it's pretty close.
No.
No, not at all.
I mean, again, if you just have iron, if you're like, oh, I want to have an Ironhide, and you put it on your desk, and like 5 feet around it there are no other Transformers, then sure, you can sort of like be like, that's the greatest Ironhide of all time. But like
you
if
could do that
put,
with the Universe Ironhide. Yeah.
I
There you
like,
go. He wouldn't be able to look at you.
but I mean, you put it. I guess, but that's not how you put your Transformers together. And yeah, you can put any hodgepodge you want together, but like if you care about the aesthetics and like the lines and the differentiation between them, it would be very bizarre to put Masterpiece Prowl and the Earthrise Ironhide together and be like, look, I got the set from Amazon. You'd be like,
Oh no. I'm
record
saying
scratch.
if you took the like mainline figures. So if you had mainline set like the new Soundwave coming out from Netflix, and that was your Soundwave, and you
New Soundwave
had
is
the
a completely different
mainline,
character.
like you had the mainline, like so essentially like you're doing Earthrise or Netflix or whatever Studio Series 86. Like say you win on all that, like could that replace your Masterpiece shelves?
I'm gonna go with what Paul said and say no. However, I will say bringing up Studio Series 86 and just the last couple of years in general is a great point in that we've said it before on this episode, is that they've come up so much. Hasbro has really stepped it up to where if I only had Studio Series 86 characters plus the Cyclonus from Earthrise or whatever, and the Galvatron from Earthrise, I guess, when he comes out, when we see him, I could be, as a casual fan, totally satisfied with the movie cast. I could be like, oh, I got the Galvatron guy, and I got Cyclonus, and I got the beard dude with all of his clone guys, and the fast running guy, and the other guy. Like, I'm sure they have names, but I don't know their names. But I wouldn't, and it would cost what if you got 7 Scourges and everyone, you've spent $400 and you have an entire set of movie characters. Sweet. It's better than spending $250 on the Galvatron, $200 on the Cyclonus, $900 on your Scourges and your sweeps and all that stuff, and you only nailed 3 characters. Jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main thing is that it's comparing like Marvel Legends collecting to Bandai, like that stuff, or Mezco, or just something like that, to where that, like, is that level good enough for you? And so I think that's kind of the question. And I think the fact that, again, like, you can tick all the boxes, you can say, like, because like Peter said, like, we're never, like, a lot of this movie stuff that we got, like that Pit of Judgment set that we got, like, that's never coming to Masterpiece, right? So, like, if you need a set that includes those characters, like, you're gonna have to sign up for Mainline, buddy, because, like, you're not gonna get that.
I think I kind of get what you're saying. Like, if you want to have one awesome Soundwave in your house, okay, is the Earthrise one acceptable or good enough? Or is that kind of what you're saying? Is that what you're asking, I mean, Lucas?
I don't know. I mean, I think that the question is like, with all the other restraint that you have and whatnot, like, you know, your budget, your just whatever, like, is...
Are you asking if does Generation scratch enough of the itch that Masterpiece is irrelevant to you?
Right.
And for me, the answer now is absolutely.
Yeah, the toys
especially
are
because
great.
the Masterpiece is too expensive now. So,
and maybe that's why the shift has even happened. Like from a backdoor business standpoint, you know, planning side, it's like, well, let's up the Masterpiece price point and change the aesthetic a little bit. And since we can, let's apply some of what we've learned to the other stuff, so the people that don't feel like they want to pay the extra $50 per figure can just buy
that.
whatever. They'll just buy more of our smaller price point stuff, and maybe their profit margin goes up beyond what it was with the Masterpiece stuff. I don't know, but that might be,
I mean,
based on business reason.
Based on like production numbers, I'm sure between Masterpiece and Mainline or whatever, yeah, there's far and away more Mainline stuff being produced, and they can only, we've run out of redecos for those Datsun guys. We can't reissue them again. Oh, what do we do? You know, and then, yeah. So then they just move that philosophy back over to the Mainline stuff, and that's what we're getting now.
But I think the other thing, too, is that as a collector, like, I want to collect stuff. And I think that, you know, for me at least with the Masterpiece stuff, third party and Takara Masterpiece has slowed down. Like, there was so much stuff that was pumping out like over the last few years, and we've gotten to the point where we've kind of gotten everything, and at this point you're just doing updates. Like, you're like, like Peter had said before, that like there's a slightly better Mirage, or there's a slightly better Bruticus, like, and so I'm gonna go ahead and rebuy some of this stuff and get something that's a little bit better. But for the most part, like, I have representations of all that, right? And so I think that might be part of it as well, to where people, like, they had most of the representation in the original Chug, then they got bored of that and sold it, then they got into Masterpiece because they had a whole line of stuff they could, you know, look forward to and years of collecting, and then now that, like, now they're done, like, you've planted that flag and said, you know, whatever, for the most part, my kingdom is complete, and then now
The kingdom isn't out yet.
we can do this for we can kind of do this for the Hasbro stuff. And the thing that's also neat about the Hasbro stuff is even the people to where you're like, oh god, I got another Ironhide, I got another Optimus Prime or whatever, they like continually, like every single wave, have something weird that they throw in, some D-list character or whatever, you know, that you're like, oh, I've got a grease pit that I can, you know, get, or just something like that. And, you know, like, like you can still collect that, and it's going to take years and years and years and whatnot to fulfill that. Like, it's never going to be done, because they're always making different stuff, or throwing some weird-ass, you know, sandstorm, or, you know, whatever it may be.
That's
We
exciting.
We're getting closer all the time. I mean, I've got a modern zone section over there with, you know, my big powered guys and all my Micromasters and la la la. I even threw Star Combo over there because there's no one else to go with them right now. But we're getting closer, whether it's from Generation Selects, Takara, or Hasbro, in finishing the character list. And they are always throwing in weirdo new guys like Sandstorm. I know is a Generation 2 promotional, blah blah blah, or not promotional, but concept throwback type thing. Yeah, thank you. And that's neat. Let's get those nods. Let's get that crazy Mirage with the watermelon alligator deco.
Please.
Let's add Fang Fart or whatever the Ramp Master's name is, and Double Butt, and you know, those guys. So I'm down for that stuff because it fleshes out the lines and adds more depth to, I don't know, what we're getting. Again, I've lost my train of thought. God, I like robots. Yep, I like Ironhide too. He's a robot.
Well, I don't think that getting the current War for Cybertron toys is like, oh, this is just I only got this because I couldn't afford Masterpiece. You know, like that's not what it is. The stuff is really good, and it's kind of like you can collect one or the other or both, but both you're going to have different experiences, but the same level of quality and like kind of excitement around what you're getting at this point. And it hasn't always been like that, you know. It really hasn't. Like you get all the articulation you could want these days. There's only a few, you know. There's not enough finger joints for Anna maybe in like Siege items or for Cybertron, but they're doing their best to emulate the qualities of Masterpiece stuff in an affordable package. And if you want to choose that over Masterpiece, I can't say that's a bad choice at all.
It all comes back down to that your collection, your rules sort of thing.
Yeah.
You get the best bang for your buck for the classics type stuff, the mainline, the generations, whatever, and you get a different experience, but for the same characters for the Masterpiece stuff, whether you do it officially or through the unofficial avenues. I don't know.
I think the one thing that's different these days too is the level of quality across the board for everything is just up so much. Like no one is just shipping complete crap. So like the main line is like, well, okay, sorry, Cyberverse, but
and Cyberverse is a main line, and they've beaten the hell out of that mold. He just held up the Cyberverse Starscream.
Oh my goodness.
Why anyone would collect that character is beyond me. But yeah, Cyberverse is a thing.
But I was going to say that even third party is the same way where, well, I guess there's been some stuff like we've brought up some of the Hound and some of that things, but a lot of the third party figures are just like, you don't get an Ollie anymore. Like, I'm trying to think of like the last, like what was the last third party figure, Peter, that
Lemon.
you got that you're just like, oh, this is a complete piece of garbage?
I have nothing. I have an Ollie. He's literally right in front of me. But it's version 2.5 or version 3 or whatever, the most recent doodad. And I like him. The engineering on the original one was fine. It's just garbage materials, garbage paint, garbage everything. And that one's down in the bin. It's over. It's around. But the last, I wasn't thrilled with Unique Toys Provider. I wasn't thrilled with Warbitron after I got all of them. I still have them because.
Well, yeah, but Warbitron, at this point, that's a pretty old figure.
Oh yeah, it's old. It's like 5 years old now.
Right.
And then I'm talking the Warbo Bruticus, not the Warbo Computron.
Computron, yeah.
Yeah. The last third-party figure that I really didn't like, I guess Monstructor by Fans Project was fine.
Yeah, but again, we're going on a few years with that, so. But I do think that is the one thing for me with Masterpiece is that, like, I handled, Anna got the Bumblebee, and she also got Hound, and both of those figures, I was like, wow, this is not for me. And, like, that's the thing that really disappointed me about this newer Masterpiece, because I love the older Masterpiece stuff. Like, I loved all the figures, and I felt like that they're all very high quality figures. Like, I've never broken anything on one of the older Masterpiece figures. I might have scratched some paint, but I'm trying to think. Like, have you guys ever broken anything on the older figures?
MPO5.
No. I didn't break MPO5. I don't think I've broken anybody Masterpiece wise.
I also broke the MP36 Plus, the chrome one.
Oh, really? What did you break?
But I got a replacement on that, thankfully.
Man, I wish I had my oof button right there.
I was following the instructions. And they said, you got to flip the gun around to the and it just went crack. I was like, okay, so the plastic is actually too thick with the chrome to actually transform. Fuck this thing. I didn't even bother opening the second one. I left it sealed.
We should do a show like sad stories only.
That would be
That's
interesting.
a sad story, Nick, because I love that MP36 Plus.
I wanted to love him, but I'm not taking a chance with him. It's
the
too
bee's
expensive.
knees.
And it's not like there's, a reasonably priced replacement I can get. If something goes wrong, nope. Fuck
Yeah.
you, you're SOL.
Well,
What it is.
you gotta collect all the broken ones. You gotta get all the ones that people have broken in different ways, and then put them together to form ultimate.
But they're all going to
MP30.
break the same way because it's all the same pinch point. It's all the same. The chrome makes the part too thick, and it doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do.
So break out your Dremel and sand that shit down.
What do I look like? If the toy doesn't work out of the box, it goes back in the box.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of the things for me that just I'm not a fan of the new direction of Masterpiece and like the way that they're doing it. So
You don't say.
I liked it much better when Masterpiece was sort of like an ultimate transformer. It wasn't slavish to the cartoon. It took
Right.
the best elements of the
Yes.
cartoon, the best elements of the toy, and made this amalgamated entity that just, however you remembered it in your head, it looked right. That's what the Datsuns are for me. It's like, oh yes, that is exactly how I remember that character. It's not right in any way, but it's what 25 years of memory had done at that point.
But the cartoon was never right. The cartoon
Sure.
couldn't stick to its
Right.
own animation models. The toys, it's
Take
it's all
that up with
subjective.
the guys who insist that every single masterpiece must be slavishly authentic to some animation cell they saw once.
Like
I do.
Ultra Magnus's red bumper. Man, I hated that. And then I hated it even more when someone's like, "Here it is." I'm like, no.
But again, that Ultra Magnus was a really fun toy. Like I enjoyed
liked
that
that
masterpiece, Ultra Magnus, and the fact that they made it so that it scaled. Like, I mean, it's not accurate to the cartoon, but then like you can put like 4 cars on it, right? 4 masterpiece cars, and like that was a lot of fun.
And the cab is perfectly scaled to MP10.
Yeah.
And it looks like MP10, but it doesn't it folds all up inside the arm. Oh,
It's great.
it's a great toy.
Well,
Remember back
doesn't.
then, all we cared about were butt flaps and stuff? Here's a butt flap! Like, honey, 2020's coming.
So yeah, so that's the thing for me is like that was kind of like the golden age of Masterpiece, like back then, and so then now I get to kind of almost relive that with the newer figures because they're throwing a lot of that engineering into the mainline figures now, and so then
Butt flaps for everyone.
Yeah.
yes,
Butt flap
Butt
forever.
flap, baby.
Butt flap baby.
I feel like this episode is therapy for Lucas. We're trying to relieve you of your guilt for getting rid of all your masterpiece toys. Is that what are we here to like save you?
I don't know.
Have you? Felt
I just thought it was
recently?
an interesting point and whatnot, but
It
You
is an
know,
interesting point, but
It is.
and I appreciate it. I do, because if I were long, because a lot of people, you'll see it on the boards on Facebook and the groups on Facebook. People are like, "Oh, I'm just getting into collecting. I love Transformers as a kid. I remember watching the movie so many times on VHS or whatever," and they're just getting into it, and it is so damn daunting to start your Transformers collection in 2020 when there's like 500 years of toy line to figure out where to start, and they get. It's unfortunate because a lot of those people get like ragged on in the groups because Facebook is unforgiving and awful.
right.
So you don't even know what you're talking about. But yeah, if you wanted to jump in now's the perfect time. Studio Series 86, Kingdom, Earthrise, Siege, it has the characters that you were after as a kid. It has the price that's just right. If you're just getting into it, you're not quite sure if you're going to commit to a $400 Optimus Prime or whatever. It's like you said, the golden age. It's a wonderful time. If you really like those damn Quintessons, get the Quintessons. There's a Judgment Pit thing and some other deco thing over here and some whatever is going on. It's awesome. Have fun. Enjoy.
Yeah, there's lots of different kinds of fun to be had right now.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And if you're trying to like get a taste of it all,
Now is the time.
Right. But then
but
again,
like,
I mean, I do feel like if you are the kind of collector where you want the ultimate collection or the ultimate pieces, then, MP44, you can still get that. You can get the MP36, Megatron, and a handful of those cars, and you can have a hell of a display that takes up one shelf behind you. And that represents a lot of those main characters. So, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily
one shelf
a bad
will
way
be
to go
impressive. That one shelf will be incredibly impressive because you've got, I remember this dude. No, that's Megatron. That's the gun dude. Does he turn into a gun? You'll be like, yeah, he turns into a gun. And then everyone will be like, whoa! And that shelf kick ass.
When the cops show up and you get arrested, and it's downhill from there. Wait, what?
Almost all of my desk spots at work are Megatrons that turn into guns.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I've got like the Despotron and the Apollyon and MP36, and they're all just at work, and I'm like, yeah, it turns into a pistol.
Yeah, but it's fine depending on what state you're in, right? So,
You're in Florida. It's fine.
I'd say if you're in Florida, anything goes.
But like you were saying, those ultimate versions of those figures, you can get the Datsuns. You have an impressive display. You don't need to have a house full of Transformers or a room full of Transformers or a wall full of Transformers. You can have a shelf and be happy with it and have really kick-ass toys, whether it's Masterpiece or Chug or Cyberverse or KoroQ. I don't care. We'll talk about KoroQ next week, kids. And yeah, I don't know. It's all subjective. If it's what you're into, then go for it.
I mean, I think that's ultimately it's your collection. Collect what you want. Like what you want and whatnot. So I think that depending on what your preferences are, what your budget is, and all that, like that's where you kind of go. And you could probably get a few Masterpiece and a few, whatever mainline figures, and kind of decide what you want. So.
Yeah, and it's not like it's written in stone. If you buy 2 Masterpiece figures, you don't have to buy all 200.
Right, that would be crazy.
Yeah, right? Like, who would do something like that?
I'm not speaking to you, Nick. I'm speaking to the general audience. And if you could get the 2 Masterpiece toys, maybe you don't like them. Maybe you sell them back to the ether, and you buy a few of the other toys. I don't know. You do it. You try it all. You got to dabble. There's so much to dabble in right now. You might like the Scout class in Cyberverse. You might like toys that half transform into something that's not a vehicle. You might like toys that don't have knees.
You might hate yourself.
You might be all of the above.
Well, if you hate yourself, you are definitely on the way to being a Transformers fan. Step 1.
Self-loathing.
Well, that's a collector in general, so.
Yes, you're right. It's the general. Filling that void with something else. That's the collecting.
Tasty void. Never satisfied. Always hungry.
Unicron. Cool. So yeah, toys are good.
Yeah.
Does the
I don't know. There's no real answer, so
But it was a good discussion.
Yeah. Yes. So, I was going to mention tomorrow night. Join us for Microcasters on the tftalk.net Facebook page, live at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Not sure what we're reviewing. I don't think I know that we kind of talked last week about maybe doing Airwave or some of the other ones. We've got a few different options. So find out when Anna posts a promo picture. It's point on social media. So,
why don't you guys review this?
Oh yeah, there you go. Look at you.
Run a balls.
Is that dropping at Target now?
It's at a lot of Targets, but it's street dated, so be careful.
That's so stupid.
Is it its own DCPI?
So
or?
stupid.
Yes.
Okay.
So
it's not
all the
something where-
exclusives. All the exclusives have their own DPCI because it's a completely unique product. So that's how you can find it. That's how you know your stores have it. You know,
Yeah.
DPCI.
Because it's not part of the assortment.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Hashtag Leadfoot. There's a guy on my local Craigslist who's selling his. He I guess got all the lead feets, and they're $70 a piece, y'all. Come on down, get your NASCAR robot. No offense to NASCAR collectors.
Those are pretty plentiful up by me.
Yeah.
Every store has
they're
at
pretty
least.
plentiful.
They
And I
flexed
bet-
out the spot for them at all my Targets because I got mine, and then all the rest of them just.
Well, I bet Runabout will be very similar distribution-wise because it's 8 per case, so not super tough to get a hold of.
Good.
And then Paul, are we doing an Oof My Wallet this week?
Oof. Why not? Just got to get some oofers. We can do it.
There you go.
I bought a mountain.
We'll see.
Well, dude, that's the ultimate oof. I think if you got time, you should pony up.
I also bought a car.
Oh, yeah.
And some
you
other
go.
stuff.
Did you put a Transformers symbol on it yet?
That no, not yet. Short answer. It was my house. We had the ocean came to our house over the last week, and so yeah, we had a painstaking cleaning process over the weekend, and my car was destroyed. Her car was destroyed too. So yeah, I replaced my car already, which is fine, and they took the corpse of my old car away. So the last thing I do once he's all put back together is put his insignias on, and so we're working that direction. So it broke my heart. It broke my heart.
We feel for you, man. That's
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. Insurance.
Yeah. And then cut the tape on Fridays or Saturdays, just depending on when Rick sends it to me. So.
What about book club on Sundays?
Oh yes, and then book clubs. Randall did not remind me on that, so I don't know if you could mention in the chat which issues are next. I think it was up to 11. Was that right?
Yeah, that was the Shadow Play arc. It was through 11.
So I think, are they doing more meets CI again, or are they switching to Robots in Disguise? I'm not sure. So I don't know. But join us in our Discord channel, and they can talk all about it. And then they also meet up on-
Breaking news, breaking through your radio. New director for the Transformers movie.
There's
Oh.
a Transformers movie?
Not Travis Knight?
Stephen Capel Jr. to direct
What is that?
new Transformers movie. The guy that directed Creed 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Huh. Interesting.
You heard it here first.
Have they set a date for it?
You know this article. It's a headline article. That's all it is.
Yeah,
Uh,
Wait,
No
what's the
information.
source? What is your source?
AV Club,
Okay. All right, so that's probably legit.
not balls.com.
but it's
Not
doesn't
we got
mean-
this covered. Not cosmic book news. Fuck out of here.
doesn't mean anything still. It doesn't mean anything.
Deadline is reporting it. So this is
Okay. So
from
that's-
Paramount.
That's an actual source.
So, well, there we go. Well, that's exciting. I mean, it's moving along. We know we're getting another Transformers movie, and it's not like whoever talking about how it would be great to have another Transformers movie. So,
How do
Maybe
you
they'll
not
box.
How do you not give the last guy another shot at it?
I
Because
didn't know that he was planning on doing another Transformers, though. Travis Knight.
throw money at him.
Yeah.
Throw money at him.
Throw
Make him
money
do
at
another
that
one
guy.
because
He could've done
the Bumblebee movie was pretty
Got
okay.
real
And
close.
pretty okay is really good praise compared to,
Yes!
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to give new guy a shot if it's see how it goes. I guess. But
Did
I'm
anyone
sure
see Creed 2?
no.
No. I'm sure he really appreciates your endorsement, Lucas.
Right. So is Michael Day producing it, or that's really the question?
14 director credits. Creed 2, Rapture TV miniseries documentary. Grown-ish, 2 episodes of that. Machine Gun Kelly's Dope Man video.
Hey, Megan Fox, connection. There we are.
The Land Class, First, Engage the Vision, Land Misfits, Different Tree. Anybody hear of any of this stuff?
Creed
No.
2.
No, that's not necessarily a bad thing, though. It's just like that's what they do with all the Marvel movies. They get kind of a
For
someone
the
that's
actors, but the directors are all
No, they
guys
do
who
it. They did it.
know.
No, they did it. They did it for the directors too. It's like you've got a nice little project and it has a niche following with a lot of hype behind it. We're going to give you this huge budget, this huge property, run with it, and that's why some directors, they blow up like I guess James Gunn, right? And then other directors like the guy who did Ant-Man, they're like no, less of that, no, and then they do reshoots and all that stuff and change everything. So.
Yeah, it's a strategy that's worked in Hollywood, and to good and bad effect, but mostly good. So,
yeah,
whatever. I mean, I have no say over who directs this film, so I'm just along for the ride. Just like I don't get a say in which masterpiece comes out to go on my shelf, and I have a happy life.
It's all going to depend on a trailer before I'm making any kind of call on whether I'm seeing this movie. I don't give a shit who's directing it, as long as it ain't Michael Bay again, or one of his sycophants,
My guess is Bay Films is involved.
I'm sure.
I think it's funny, Nick, is the
get
fact
this
that
movie.
you have to buy all the toys, but then you don't have to see all the movies. Whereas I feel like I always have to
now.
just go see the
But I
movies. I
have
guess you
now.
have. Yeah.
and you're better for it.
No, I'm
So-
not.
So to summarize, whether it's classics or masterpiece, I don't have a detritus figure that I can put on my shelf. So burn it all.
There you go. Well, thanks to everyone in the chat tonight. Big Daddy Reviews, Catherine, Ben, Zaldron, Jazzmeister, Ryan, and I think there was one other one I missed.
Did you say Catherine?
Enot, I said Catherine. I think there's somebody else I feel like I'm missing. Jay Zachary.
Nicholas
There we
Bryan.
go. That was the one I was missing. I was trying to find. So anyway, thank you guys. And I guess that's it. So any other final thoughts before we wrap?
Toys are good.
If you buy everything, you don't have this problem.
There you go.
Well, he's not wrong. You just have a lot of other problems.
That's true.
Ooh.
So, all right. Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you next week.
Thanks.